Greetings, grinders. It's Sean Hugas, a.k.a. Duckie Succumbs, a.k.a. Duckie, a.k.a. Pale Wonder, a.k.a. a lot of names you've probably come up with me and haven't told me to my face. This is part 2 of our one-on-one with Duckie series. And one of the first people I talked to when I was planning to do this show was somebody I knew could talk as long as I could. And so I brought the great EMac onto the show. Welcome, EMac.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Duckie. It is a good time for everybody's old pal here. And it's old, O-L apostrophe. Everybody says it's old. Why would they say I'm old, Sean? I don't know.
I don't know why they would say that. I have no idea. I mean, you're an old to me. I would definitely go that route. We've done night sweats together. We've seen each other at many of the events. So it's always been a fun time. I think you helped me co-host the Grinders basketball tournament that one year at the Grinders party. You were one of the hosts. Indeed,
yeah. I think it was me and you and Dean. The first year out there, Cal's Pears, I can't even say his name correctly anymore. Cal Spears, and I did it, and he forgot to turn the sound on. So we did a full court game for 40 minutes, and there's no record of it.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm not surprised, but that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, ours was legendary. Unfortunately, Roto Grinders never cut it down to a watchable video, so there's all these random videos floating out in the Roto Grinders universe right now of us doing this. But I think we managed to insult every person that was there at some point, which was good. It's healthy. But seeing we're hosts, this is one of the topics. We're going to end up talking about 2 topics tonight. The first one, though, a lot of people ask, usually in a mean way, how in the hell did you guys become hosts? Usually in a nicer way, how do I also become a host on Roto Grinders? And EMac thought that would be an excellent thing to discuss, and I agreed, of course. Stay tuned. We're also going to be talking about 80s movies after this. But first, what would you say is the first thing you need to know to become a host on a site like Roto Grinders?
All right. I think one of the biggest things that helped me is I didn't know what I was going to do. When I was younger, I always thought, oh, I want to be on radio. That sounds kind of fun. Or, oh, I want to announce a sporting event. Or why couldn't I be an actor? Or why couldn't I be a writer? Well, I'm not, the most handsome, the most photogenic, shall we say.
Don't sell yourself short.
So the acting thing wasn't really going to happen. And I should add, I come from a very art-oriented family. My mom was in the San Francisco Opera. Her mother was a mainstay there. Had radio singing shows. My aunt does. She's in a cover band that's opened for all the old '80s people like Huey Lewis and stuff like that. So everybody's into something, and I never had any of that. But I always thought, well, I want to be a writer then, because who's to say that you can't be a writer? So the funny part is I started taking these writing classes.
I think we're losing you. There's no audio. We'll have to talk again. Let's see.
Am I back?
Now you're back. Okay.
All right. I'm making sure it didn't come loose here.
Okay. So I think I lost you right around the point of that you wanted to be a writer.
So I wanted to be a writer there, and I thought that let's take some writing classes. So I went to the local community college, and you can take night classes there. So I took how to be a short story writer, how to be a children's author, how to do this, just because I thought, I was just picking topics that worked for my schedule. It didn't matter. So I did a few of those things, but you learn pretty quick that writing is not easy. I also took Spanish classes there because I thought, it'd be fun to speak another language. So this is, stuff I'd done well after I'd graduated college and after I'd already, passed the CPA and did all that. So this was just for fun, for my own betterment. And then I thought, well, this isn't really going to go anywhere. What am I ever going to do with this? Although I can write really well now for work and stuff, which is very helpful. And then I got into Toastmasters. So the interesting thing about Toastmasters is that it is about public speaking. And just getting up and talking in front of people, and it's a safe environment. So when you're doing it, if you do poorly, it's expected the first few few times, and they coach you up and all of that. So I did that for about 4 years, and was actually the president of the club I was in, just because I enjoyed helping other people kind of overcome one of their biggest fears. So imagine my surprise all of a sudden when this daily fantasy sports thing shows up years later from when I was the writing, and I was still doing Toastmasters when I came across RotoGrinder. So, I started doing the writing, and then Dan came up with the idea for the show, and they needed weekend hosts, and me and Bills fan Warren Kasoy sent in our tapes, but they got some other, or I don't want to say tapes. We, recorded a Google Hangout and sent it to him. And
how did you know Dan before this? By the way, you just saw him on the sites, and you.
Yeah, so I knew Dan because I was actually at the time the weekend warrior. So now I think we have a team of 7 or 8 people that work on the weekends. It was just me back then. So I had met the RotoGrinders crew because I won a contest on DraftKings. It was on like a Friday or a Saturday night, and it was a free trip and 2 nights room and lodging out to the inaugural RotoGrinders party. And it was on DraftKings, and I ended up winning. I think it was $20 to enter. I think it was like a 50-person contest, and I think like 25 or 30 people jumped in it, because this one, it wasn't big back then, but 2, there was one prize. It was first, and you had to be able to go to Vegas that next week.
So if you didn't win that tournament, you might not be here right now. That was pretty much the entrance for you.
Yeah, I probably would have stumbled along a little bit. I mean, I knew about RotoGrinders and all that. I probably would have become a writer at some point or coming through the blog program. But I got to meet him out there, and courtesy of Manny Machado's 2 home runs. I think it was his 2nd or 3rd game up. And the only reason I knew about him was I heard his name on the radio, and he was a minimum price back then. The minimum was $2,000 per player. So I had him, and kind of one other person had him, and I ended up having a better team than them. So anyway, that's how I got to come out, and I got to hang out with Dan and Cal, and Ethan was just kind of starting out at the time. So I sort of became the weekend warrior, because they're like, oh my God, you're an analyst, you're good with Excel, you can do all this stuff. And then as we expanded, I just started pitching in wherever. Right now I'm mostly a writer, but then the Grinders Live came along, and I think the first hosts were Dave, Soccer Dave, Al Smizzle, Dan was doing it. I want to say that was one other person maybe, and they came up with it was Beer Makers Fan and Fantasy Nomad, but then they didn't have any weekend shows, and everybody wanted to watch stuff on the weekends, and so they put out a call, and a few of us sent our stuff in. But what I wanted to talk about from that is there are many ways you can polish and hone your skills. And the interesting thing is it's getting that opportunity to shine or to show what you can do. And that's the hardest part. I mean, at the beginning here, you were saying, Dan just kind of found you. And he's like, well, let's find something for him to do. When you're trying to find people, especially at the beginning, where do you even start for something like this? It's tricky. So a lot of it's right place, right time. But now that everything's established, a lot of people say, oh, well, I want to be a writer, or, oh, I want to do this, or I want to be an on-air talent. And I always say, well, start out with the blog program. That'll show you how much work really goes into this stuff behind the scenes, or put together a demo. I mean, you can break down a whole day's slate, or break down 6 games and just record yourself on Google Hangouts, then watch it back and you'll be mortified. Do it again, watch it back, you'll be mortified. And then you're like, oh, okay, I'm looking a little bit better. And there's tons of people that post stuff on YouTube and things like that. And some of them you look at, they're like, oh my God, they're horrible. And other people, you're like, wow, this person's going to end up on a major media platform, like Smizzle or Pete Jennings or some of those other guys. So
they all started here. So, I mean, that has to be remembered for everybody. And a lot of the people that are doing the shows right now are people that started that way, that just they gave a chance to, and I'm not doing this to plug RotoGrinders, the great saviors that have all given us a job. It's not that, but they all just saw something from our small work that we were willing to do, and it turned into something larger from that.
Yeah, and I would say you just got to jump in somewhere. I mean, gosh, we have people that start out in the blog program or on the alerts team or whatever, and then next thing you know, they're writing feature articles or they're on-air talent. You just got to get your foot in the door. If you prove that you're capable and most importantly dependable, there's a role for you, because people have a lot of lives and a lot of busy time. So we're ever expanding with the need for talent.
Yeah, I mean, reliable is very important, because if you have the time and the work, the diligence to do it, as long as you don't sound incompetent in these situations. I don't know why they give me a job, but still, But as long as you don't sound competent, they will work with you and get you to the point where you could feel comfortable doing a show. And honestly, once you've done a couple shows on these on the site, you feel pretty comfortable doing it. What would you say is the biggest flaw though in new people when they start these things?
They haven't watched themselves. They don't watch the playback. When Warren and I first did these, I would watch as soon as we were off air and lineups had locked. I would watch the entire show back and try to figure out what I was doing wrong. Do I have crutch words? Do I stutter? Am I looking at the camera? Am I mumbling? Am I being too quiet? I don't think we have a problem with me being too quiet. Am I mispronouncing names? That one's still an issue. But
well, yeah, I caught a few today. You have a buddy that gets his name mentioned.
Jeremy Levine. Yeah, it's just like, really? Every time I look at it, I'm just like,
Zach Levine. I went to UCLA, so Zach, I know Zach. I mean, I don't know Zach, but I've watched him during college and stuff. So he's kind of locked in. But I'm sure there are people like that for me as well. I watched my first shows as well when I was doing Night Sweats. And I did catch a few things that I was doing regularly. I'm sure I still do them now to a degree, but after a while you kind of go, okay, I could stop this. This is not a major thing. And eventually, it's harder on a show like Night Sweats when you're on for 3 hours and you're trying to fill time. But on a smaller show like a Grinders Live or things like that, you could start getting a rhythm that you feel comfortable with.
Right. And the point would be just try it a few times. You break down 2 games on tape, spend 5 or 6 minutes, and then watch yourself back, and you'll be like, you will improve dramatically. The problem we have with some people and some of our writers is they get their chance and then they're not ready for it, and they blow it, or they're late, or they're horrible. And it's kind of like, look, there's a cast of thousands out there that want to do stuff. So you gotta kind of be ready when it appears for you.
And I would say, know your personality in these situations. If you're a funny person, be funny. If you're a knowledgeable person, be knowledgeable. You don't have to be everything to everyone in these situations.
Yeah, and that's another fantastic point there, Duckie, because we have so many hours of shows now. We need all sorts of different people. Otherwise, it just becomes the same, talking heads droning on. Now, we don't need to be, who's that horrible Stephen A. Smith, and who's his buddy? I forget.
Skip.
Yeah.
Skip. Yeah. I don't think we'd be Stephen A. and Skip.
No.
But I mean, I knew right off the bat when I was hosting, I was not going to be the information guy.
Yeah.
I knew that. I know sports. In my casual group of friends, I'm knowledgeable about sports. But I knew in this arena, I was not going to be the guy that was going to be spitting out statistics during the show. They put me on for different reasons. And honestly, some of the people that do shows, and I'm not saying Roto Grinders specifically, I'm just saying all shows that happen to do with sports and things like that. Some people just aren't funny, and they try really hard to be funny. And you just go, no, that's not the angle for you. And you just have to find that spot where you just go, I'm going to be this to these people. And honestly, the community will respond to you in that. They may heckle you first. I mean,
what do you mean may? Of course you get heckled. You get heckled every time.
I started as a troll. Once I got onto the Roto Grinders chat room, I think the first day I was on, I was calling Dan Bach powder and things like that. I just after a while I realized this might not be the angle. That's actually something I should bring up. If you think heckling is going to get you far, in rotogrinders. If you're trying to actually make a career out of this, tone the heckling down in that situation. People are gonna. You have a better chance of being kicked off the board. I'm not saying don't heckle. Everybody heckles. I heckle. I do it on occasion, but I wouldn't use that as your go-to move.
No, and you need to be funny when you're doing it. It's like what you not everybody knows, but Kevin Hughes is your brother. And he comes on into chat, and every time I see him, he says something about Tyson Ross to me, and I call him Duckie's brother. So
I won't go into why he brings up Tyson Ross. It's okay.
But see, the way
the final I made, I was actually in third place at one point, and I was one of the few people to have Robinson Cano left in the game, and Robinson Cano went 0 for 4 that day against Tyson Ross. So Tyson Ross actually cost me a lot of money as well. So we're actually in the same boat. Confession time. So when my brother does that, it actually hurts me a little bit too, because I hear Tyson Ross's name.
Yes, and the punchline would be that Kevin won the seat to the live finals because he passed me with Tyson Ross. Yeah, and then the next week I got third, and STL Cards got second, and we both got passed by Tyson Ross.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that. Oh, so that's even harder. So to my brother, he's up on the Tyson Ross.
As a final mocking before we transition to our other topic, Tyson Ross's younger brother now pitches for the Washington Nationals, so I can't get away from him. He's actually a pretty good pitcher, though. Both of them are.
Yeah, they're both good pitchers. I've got my National League draft coming up in about a week, but I'm not going to go into that. Nobody wants to hear about my fantasy team, so I will show respect in that. So just to close, put a ribbon on this. I'll put a
sure. So the key. Let me just hit my fine point. So anything you do that can improve your lot will help you out, and it doesn't have to be for roto-grinders. It can be for anything. But writing classes help. I know most people are going to say, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Write a blog, write a journal, do something. Put some structure around it. Join our blog program. Post your own blog or public speaking. It's huge. It's important, and you need the reps. So if you're not going to sit there and film yourself doing it, you just go to Toastmasters or one of the other types of outlets like that, and you can polish up things dramatically. It makes a world of difference from the first time you do it to about the fourth or fifth time. So it doesn't take that long, and all of a sudden people are like, wow, you're good at speaking.
I've done writing classes in college. I did speech classes in college. They make a difference, and you could think that you will be a natural on the camera or in front of people. It's not the case. I've sat through many things where people I thought that would be great in front of a camera or in front of a group of people just completely blow it because they weren't prepared to do it. So yeah, you like anything in life, you have to put in the work. So.
Yeah, and I have audiences a lot with the senior leadership of the various companies I work for what I do. So, while I may not always meet with the CEO, I meet all the time with the CFO and the COO and all these heads. Well, they're 4 or 5 levels above where I am, but they all remember who I am right away because I can present well, I can get what they need, distill very complex topics into something that is consumable, and that's what fantasy sports is. It's a very complex topic. When you're playing for money, brings out the best in everybody.
It really does. Yeah. So topic number 2, eventually we're going to have like a format of the show. I'm probably going to have background music and stuff, but right now it's still the raw show. But I kind of like it like this. It's kind of DIY, or DIY, not DIY, DIY. So I'm kind of digging. But topic 2. EMac wanted to talk about 80s movies. And when we say 80s movies, we're not talking about the best movies of the 80s. We're talking 80s movies. There's a specific kind of movie.
Genre.
It's a genre. It's like 80s music. When you talk about 80s music, people know what you're talking about. Define to you what is an 80s movie.
I think there are 2 levels. There are the ones that were commercial successes and are still on TBS or TNT or Spike or any of those channels still. Okay, so we know what those ones are. And then there are the ones that came out that were that only could have worked in the 80s, much like there was, the blaxploitation stuff in the late 60s, early 70s. There was just, it only worked in that societal time. And for the 80s movies, it was the god awful, usually involving a spring break, a vacation, college kids, and then ultimately there would be boobs for some reason.
Yeah, they would find a way. I was actually going to do this before. I didn't get around to it. I was wondering if you took the best actress and supporting actress nominees of the 80s, I bet you the percentage of nudity in those movies were much higher than 90s or 2000s. But most of those actresses at some point had to appear in a movie like Private School, for example. I don't know if you remember Private School.
Oh, of course I do. Was that Rob Lowe in that one?
No, that was Class, I think. Class was the one with Jacqueline Bisset and Andrew McCarthy. That's actually an excellent. Let's go to Class. Class is an excellent movie. It fits all the criteria of an 80s movie. It's a young man that is sexually curious and an older, incredibly attractive woman that seems to show the way. There were several of those kinds of movies. My Tutor, Private Lessons. You can't. You wanted to talk 80s movies. When I grew up, there was a channel called Z Channel that was out here in Los Angeles. It was the HBO of Los Angeles, and they would just show the most random movies on earth. And so and they'd show them at any hour. So if my mom wasn't home, I could watch Private Lessons at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and she wasn't home. So let's just say I learned a lot at a young age at these points. But Class, going back to Class, it was Rob Lowe. His mom was Jacqueline Bisset, who, if you don't know who Jacqueline Bisset was, in her peak, she was an attractive woman. We'll just leave it at that. But the boy started having an affair with his mom, so it was like a 40-year-old woman with a 16-year-old boy. That's probably 30% of all 80s movies at that time. So
so those were kind of when they started, and most of those came out, I don't know, like from about 80 to 85, and then those all went away. But they were coming out constantly at that point. Hard Bodies and Hard Bodies 2. The one, but then they started getting better, and they focused. Then they turned to more action, and then some of the more iconic stuff. So we'll kind of talk about that too. But the greatest trilogy of all time is definitely the Porky's trilogy.
Oh, the Porky's trilogy. Oh, dear. I don't know why my mom let me go see that movie. But we all the kids in my school saw that movie. We were probably 13 at the time. You learn a lot in life about Porky's.
Yeah, it was. That was a very, very interesting concept, and it was. They kind of took from Greece, because they had all these people that were in there. They were 25 or 30, and they were playing high school kids.
It was like American Graffiti, but blatant sex angle with it. American Graffiti was still kind of innocent. It was still guys trying to get girls and things like that, but it was just, that would be as far as it would go. Porky's was, the main character was basically there to lose his virginity. And
not unlike Last American Virgin,
which also yes, but Last American Virgin had the saddest ending of any movie I've ever seen.
That was the Shelley Long one, right?
No. See, that was Losing It.
Oh, Lucy, yes. Okay, they all kind of run together because they were all pretty much the same plot.
We're gonna get into a rabbit hole, I'm sure, on this, but yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of random actresses that became famous after that appeared in these movies. If you had to go, though, if there was one actress during this era where you'd go, oh, that's the one that completely signifies these movies to me, who was it?
Kim Cattrall.
Kim Cattrall's a good one.
Yeah, because she's in Porky's, she's in Bachelor Party.
Oh, what? She was in Bachelor Party. God, I forgot that.
Yeah.
I would go with Phoebe Cates.
Oh, that would be the most iconic.
Yeah.
Let's pause.
Yeah, I know. have a moment. When I think 80s movies, I think Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which was a good version of those 80s movies. Yeah. It's a quality movie. It has a lot of amazing talent. I mean, Sean Penn's in it. Jennifer Jason Leigh. There's Academy Award nominated and winning. Nicolas Cage is like in the background throughout the movie, but the only reason people remember that movie is Phoebe Cates getting out of the pool.
That was awesome. Judd Reinhold was in that.
Yeah, Judge Reinhold. There was a lot of like random people.
Eric Stoltz was in it.
Anthony Edwards was one of the stoners.
That's right.
Yeah, it was like all these random people, and then the Vincent Schiavelli, who played like the ghost in Ghost and teaches Patrick Swayze how to. There's a lot of random people in that movie, but when I think of those movies, that's the first thing. I have to say, those movies that ruined my high school, because I started going to high school after those movies stopped, and I thought high school was going to be like all those movies. And unfortunately, I was during the Reagan Just Say No. Everybody was afraid of disease, everything like that. So my school was 800 in my class, and like 394 of the 400 guys were not having sex, and the other 6 were having a time of their life. So unfortunately, my high school days did not live up to the Fast Times at Ridgemont High standard that happened. But
so here's a quick filmography for Kim Cattrall, and I've seen some of them. Like, oh my god, I forgot she was in those. So Porky's, obviously, she played the teacher named Lassie for great reasons. Yeah. She was in the Police Academy. Yeah, she was in the Police Academy.
Was she in the first one?
She was in the first one.
She's the love interest in the first one, if I recall. Yeah. Police Academy, another movie. They got worse and worse. But if you watch the first one, it's worth it. Yeah.
Turk 182.
Oh, God.
That was, I don't even understand the premise of that one.
I don't even, I mean, I remember Turk 182, but.
A kid's older brother was a spoiler alert 30 years later. Kid's older brother was like a policeman or a firefighter, and they were unsafe conditions. So he became this guy nicknamed Turk, and he used his brother's badge number or engine number, or whatever, 182, and went on this graffiti campaign and turned the whole city of, I don't remember if it was New York or a play on New York, but turned the whole city against the mayor until he cleaned up the whatever it was. But she was in that.
John Cryer? Was it John Cryer in that, or am I mixing?
No, you're mixing it up.
Well, continue. I know she was in Mannequin.
It was Timothy Hutton who was in it.
Oh, it's Timothy Hutton. So he went after ordinary people to Turk 182. Okay, well.
Yeah. So yes, Mannequin was a good one, but I think the underrated one is Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, Egg Shin, you can never beat me. Yeah, that's I when I worked at Universal this past year, I had a Kurt Russell. They're not bobbleheads; those little Japanese action figures with the big heads. I can't remember what brand they had, but I had a Jack Burton and a McLovin on my desk. Those were the two that I had on my desk.
So the question is, who was better, Kurt Russell or Patrick Swayze?
Oh, wow. I tend to look. I'm going to be unpopular here, but I tend to like Kurt Russell.
Well, and the correct answer is Patrick Swayze.
Oh, see, yeah, you're going to disagree with me. I know. I will say this: I did not watch Roadhouse till a few years ago. I somehow avoided it, and I did not watch Point Break till a few years ago. But I finally watched both of them. I get Point Break. Roadhouse, I think I've hit my cynical stage now where I just was like, oh, this is awful. But
did you watch it? Did you watch it on TV, or did you watch it, what I like to call the uncut version? Because they are two entirely different movies.
Oh, I watched it on TV. I believe I watched it on TV.
Yeah. No, the good parts, like that would explain some of their sayings and stuff. They don't. Those don't make it.
I watched the unedited version. I watched like an HBO version of it. So I didn't. Okay, I did get all the language and nudity and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Not all that. If you still don't like it, Duckie, I don't know what to say.
I don't hate it. I get it. totally get it, but if you're going, if you're going to ask me, Kurt Russell, I just think Steak Plissken is amazing.
Oh,
Escape from New York is awesome. So, you know, when we were all this stuff now with the end of the world kind of stuff, it didn't start with Escape from New York, but Escape from New York was I remember in junior high school, we had to do radio plays, and a friend of mine and I did Escape from Lincoln Junior High School. And it was based, you know, we had instead of a guy named Brain, we had a guy named Tumor. You know, it was all bad jokes. It was junior high, so it was pretty bad. They gave us an A, but I mean, if I heard that now, I'd probably. There are 2 tapes in this world that I don't ever want to get out to the public. That's one of them.
All right. So anyway, so he had Big Trouble in Little China.
Right.
That was a good one. Best of Times, Robin Williams' vehicle, was not bad. Overboard was popular. I didn't like it, but it was popular.
It's not my cup of tea, but I had people quoting that movie to me last week. So Overboard still holds up.
Tequila Sunrise, which was a fantastic movie. I still don't really know what it was about, but Raul Julia, Michelle Pfeiffer,
Mel Gibson, right?
Mel Gibson.
Oh, no. Yeah, it was Mel Gibson. I saw that in the theater. I can't tell you. That actually brings us to the second kind of movie from the 80s, because Tequila Sunrise was a classic version of the thriller, kind of the action thriller genre that happened during that time. I mean, you had Mel Gibson. Fatal Attraction, Basic Instinct.
Yeah, Basic Instinct was 90s.
Okay, that was 90s. Okay, so but before that, it was all the 80s movies. That's true. Yeah, it was like early 90s. Now, yeah, you're correct. But the Stallone did a ton of these movies. I remember, because you had like Tango and Cash with Kurt Russell,
Cobra.
Yeah, Cobra, and it was all pretty much. It was Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and there might have been a couple. You know, Seagal, I think, was just at the edge of that.
Yeah, and Van Damme were kind of at the end.
Oh, I still watch Bloodsport every once in a while. I can't help myself with Van Damme.
That is a classic.
It's a horrible movie, but it's a great movie. That's all. And anybody that watches 80s movies know what I mean when I say that phrase. It's a horrible movie, but it's great.
That one has Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds, kind of tying it all back to the let's show naked girls theme.
You know, Revenge of the Nerds, when I was in junior high school, that came out, and they had a free screening of it before it came out because they were doing a test screening. And there were people standing outside my junior high school that were giving us free passes to go see Revenge of the Nerds, which I think nowadays would be illegal because that movie was a hard R, and yet they were still like going up to 13-year-old kids. You want to see a movie? You know, and it was like they did. So my mom took me and my brother to see Revenge of the Nerds, and there's like hair pie jokes and everything like that, and it's like you have to just sit there, you know, uncomfortably with your mother at those situations. But what would you say was the best of those 80s movies?
Well, I would.
Hard question, but
I would probably default to. I thought Roadhouse was pretty good. I think it just Diggstown, but I think that was just into the 90s.
Yeah, Diggstown's great though. Diggstown's one of those TBS movies. It's on TBS all the time. You're like, why am I watching this? And yet you'll watch it for the 47th time. It's just if you haven't seen Diggstown, watch Diggstown. God, that is a good one, Diggstown. I agree. I'm not saying this is the best one, but this is one that I still watch, and it still holds up to me. It's Stripes.
Okay.
Because you have Bill Murray, who's always great. It's probably some of the best Bill Murray you have. You have Harold Ramis, which is great. Warren Oates is great. You have John Candy. You got your nudity. You got your the shower scene. They found a way to work a shower scene into that movie. And you have PJ Souls, who is and Sean Young, who both were underrated 80s attractive ladies. PJ Souls, who was in Rock and Roll High School, which was thumbs up to Rock and Roll High School, but that might have been 70s. Rock and Roll High School. But
Yeah, because the Ramones, I bet that was the 79,
yeah,
78.
not 79, but maybe 80, but close enough. Okay, well, we could go on for an hour and a half. We really,
Red Dawn is the other one I would.
Oh, Red Dawn. Red Dawn. Yeah, you had a lot. That was the original Brat Pack era. You had a lot of the Brat Pack, which we didn't even get into.
No.
You had the John Hughes movies. You had The Outsiders. You had
The Outsiders cast is phenomenal.
Yeah, if you haven't looked up The Outsiders cast, I mean there's a lot of Matt Dillon, Tom Cruise, Diane Lane,
Leif Garrett.
Yeah, Leif Garrett. You can't forget Leif Garrett. And for people that don't know who Leif Garrett is, trust me, there was a point where 13-year-old girls in the 70s were in love with Leif Garrett. So just know that for a fact. But yeah, we didn't even get into the John Hughes movies. We didn't even get into
the sci-fi ones.
The sci-fi ones, yeah.
Although there weren't as many sci-fi ones. They kind of took a
Alien. You had the Alien series, and you had.
But it was all Rambo, and there was kind of that westerns with Pale Rider and Silverado and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we could do another, and maybe we'll come back and do this if by popular demand you want us to talk about. EMac and I could talk about specific movie or genre movies. We'd be happy to. I'm sure you would be. So. But I think we're going to cut it because they don't want me doing these things for an hour and a half. They like to keep them tight.
That's fine. That's fine. My last thought would be nobody puts baby in the corner.
Nobody puts baby in the corner. So maybe we should do a T-shirt trivia question, that somebody could do with
What was the last movie line McPherson referenced?
Yeah, I know. What was the last movie? Like, what movie did McPherson last reference? If you put it in the comments section of the page here where the podcast is, I'm not promising a T-shirt because God knows we've tried these before. That suddenly 6 months later I get a text, "Where's my damn T-shirt?" But maybe we'll get you a T-shirt if you come through on this. So it's not a hard one, but. You might have zoned out already and forgot what movie he referenced. We're not going to say anymore. So, EMac, it's always a pleasure, and we'll see where this goes. Maybe we'll have you back again for the anniversary show at some point, something like that.
Or it could be the second and farewell show, all wrapped into one.
The last one, you never know. But next week we're going to have Beep I'm a Jeep on, who. Wants to talk about board games and reality TV, so it should be fun. You're going to learn a lot, just as you learned today from EMac. Thank you, EMac. It's been a pleasure.
All right, thanks.